A possible end to SADTU's go-slow in the Eastern Cape and sentencing in the killers of a lesbian woman. Good day to you. A package has been clinched between Cosatu and the Eastern Cape government, which could see an end to the go-slow by SADTU. Cosatu's General Secretary, Zwelinzima Vavi, says their meetings with the Provincial Premier and Education MEC in East London have produced positive results. SADTU is demanding the reinstatement of temporary teachers and the removal of the head of department. Vavi says if government and SADTU agree on the recommendations, a public announcement will be made on Wednesday.
We're now in a position where a package of issues have developed that requires further mandating by the executive. And the executive of the government of the Eastern Cape will be meeting tomorrow to consider the product of what we discussed. And SADTU have convened a provincial executive committee. They will also take a report on the same issues.
A Swedish Supreme Court judge says provisions in the Protection of State Information Bill may frighten off investigative journalists from exposing wrongdoing in government. Judge Goran Lamberts has told the seminar of the Institute of Security Studies in Cape Town that although the bill is essentially a good piece of legislation, questions remain about the protection of journalists and whistleblowers.
The press must be free to publish and not be chilled by threats of harsh punishment if they should publish too much or be in a possession of information they should not handle. Scared journalists are bad journalists, and with bad journalists you get a bad democracy.
Sentencing procedures have begun in the Khayelitsha Regional Court in the murder case of 4 men accused of murdering a Khayelitsha woman for being a lesbian. The 4 are expected to be formally sentenced on Wednesday for the murder in 2006. NBA spokesperson Erikin Tabazalila.
The arguments were finalized as the state will call for a minimum sentence of 15 years. The accused did not even show remorse and they committed a heinous crime, which we believe that they killed Zosangonyana because she was a lesbian. So this Wednesday, the presiding officer will pass a sentence at 9 o'clock.
The 2 accused in the Eugene Blanche murder asked for money just hours before the gruesome murder. That's according to the testimony of the slain AWB leader's wife in the Circuit High Court in Ventersdorp in the northwest. Marty Blanche ran the administration of her husband's cattle farm and paid farm workers. Blanche was bludgeoned to death on his farm in 2010. Candice Klein reports.
The older accused, Chris Mahlungu, had his wages increased to 700 Rand in the month leading up to the murder. The teenage accused made about 200 Rand a month. They were due to receive their wages after that Easter weekend. Marty says Sir Blanche didn't want them to get paid on Fridays or public holidays for fear that they'd spend all their money on alcohol. Marty says the 2 often borrowed money from them during the month and that the teenager bought tobacco from her on credit. This was subtracted from their wages. Candice Klein, SABC News, Ventersdorp.
A Durban court sheriff has been arrested for allegedly working with a syndicate that influences prices at auctions in their favour. Police say an alleged member of the syndicate was also taken into custody on charges of contravening the Income Tax and VAT Act. Well, police say the sheriff deals with auctions of properties on behalf of banks. The investigation conducted by the South African Revenue Service and police reveals that the suspects made money from buying and selling properties and didn't pay taxes. The estimated value at this stage is 40 million Rand. Street fighting in the Syrian capital Damascus has been raging since dawn. Earlier it was reported that Syrian troops had regained control of some parts of Damascus. Activist Amar al-Sadek.
On the other side of the city that's close to the Lebanese borders, electricity was cut and a number of houses was bulldozed in those areas. So we are afraid for the humanitarian crisis. We are afraid for the residents, the civilians that have nothing to do with this. And we know that the army targets them just because they are protesting or because he knows, okay, you are hosting those defected soldiers and you should pay for that.
The top story, a package has been clinched between Cosatu and the Eastern Cape government, which could see an end to the go-slow by SADTU.